You ever get that feeling, when you're like so close to a goal, but something's holding you back?
Oh, yeah, we've all been there.
And in this case, it's that exciting dream of studying abroad, right? But maybe the only thing in your way is feeling confident in your English.
Mhm.
So today we're diving into some material that might just help you break through that barrier.
Sounds good.
Kind of like we're eavesdropping on a conversation between two friends, one who's already made the leap and moved to the U.S.,
Okay.
and the other who's dealing with those same anxieties about their English.
Interesting.
Exactly. And what's so fascinating is how quickly they jump into this idea that fluency isn't just about, memorizing grammar rules.
Yeah, it's more
It's more like building a house.
Exactly. Knowing the names of the tools is one thing, but actually using them to build something.
Totally. That's a whole other skill set. And think about it. You've been putting in the work, studying the rules, but hitting that wall where textbook knowledge just isn't cutting it. So what is that secret sauce? Well, their conversation points to something called immersion.
That's huge.
Yeah.
They actually talk about surrounding yourself with English content as
Mhm.
much as possible. Movies, TV shows, even YouTube.
Yeah, yeah.
It might feel more comfortable to stick with your native language, but uh, think of it this way. You're kind of training your ear to pick up the natural rhythms and patterns of English.
So you mentioned watching movies, right? What if you picked a genre you absolutely love, something you could watch over and over again?
Oh, yeah, good strategy.
Start with subtitles in your native language, then maybe challenge yourself to switch to English subtitles, and eventually try watching with no subtitles at all. Just focus on grasping the overall story. You'll be surprised how much your brain absorbs, even when you don't realize it.
Absolutely. It's like learning to swim,
Yeah.
You can read all the books about swimming techniques,
Right.
but until you jump in the pool and start splashing around, you won't really develop those skills. You got to jump in. And speaking of jumping in, they also emphasize the importance of actively building your vocabulary.
Absolutely.
But it's not just about memorizing lists of words, is it?
No, they compare rote memorization to having like a pile of bricks.
Yeah.
Sure, you have the building blocks, but without understanding how they fit together, you can't actually create anything meaningful.
Okay, so how do we take those bricks and start building our vocabulary?
Well, they suggest taking those new words you encounter and creating flashcards with example sentences.
Oh, good idea.
So picture this. You're watching a show, and a character uses a word you've never heard before.
Happens all the time.
Instead of just letting it go, jot it down, look up its meaning, and then create a sentence that uses that word, but in a way that makes sense to you. You can even use a spaced repetition app,
Mm-hmm.
to help you review those words and really cement them in your memory.
Ooh, yeah, those are handy.
And remember, the goal here is to use those words in real conversations,
Mhm.
not just recognize them on a page, right?
That's where the real magic of fluency happens.
Okay, so we've got immersion, active vocabulary building. What else kind of popped out from their conversation?
They spend a lot of time talking about the importance of speaking practice,
Okay.
which, let's be honest, can feel really daunting, especially when you're not living in an English-speaking country.
It can be intimidating. They even suggest talking to yourself out loud.
It sounds silly, but
I know it sounds a bit silly at first, but think about it. No pressure, no judgment. You can experiment with new words,
Yeah.
try out different sentence structures, get used to the sound of your own voice speaking English.
and it's a safe space to make mistakes
Right,
and learn from them.
right.
And the more you do it, the less scary it becomes to actually speak English with other people.
Yeah, it's like you're building that confidence muscle. Think back to when you were learning to ride a bike.
Oh, yeah.
You probably fell a few times,
That few.
but each time you got back on, you worried a little less about falling, right?
Makes sense. Speaking a new language, it's kind of similar. The more you practice, the less those initial fears hold you back.
It makes total sense. And they actually point out a bunch of common mistakes that people make when learning English. Things that might be slowing you down without even realizing it.
Oh, for sure. Let's break those down because understanding why these are roadblocks can help you, steer clear. They talk about neglecting to use new vocabulary, not practicing enough, being afraid of making mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
getting too hung up on perfect grammar,
Right.
and even having like a negative mindset.
So many traps to avoid. Let's zoom in on that fear of making mistakes.
Yeah.
It's totally natural to feel nervous about messing up, but what do your friends in the conversation say about this?
Well, they actually frame mistakes as valuable feedback.
Okay.
Instead of seeing them as failures, they encourage you to view them as opportunities to learn and improve.
Interesting.
Think of it like baking a cake. You wouldn't expect to whip up a perfect cake on your first try, would you?
Not unless you're some kind of, like, baking prodigy.
Right. Most of us need a few tries, maybe a few burnt cakes before we get it right.
Definitely.
Language learning, it's the same.
Yeah.
Every mistake helps you, refine your skills,
Yeah.
get closer to fluency.
It's a process.
It is. It is.
That's a really empowering way to look at it. And they also talk about the importance of having a positive mindset.
Absolutely.
If you keep telling yourself you're bad at languages,
Right.
it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
You're setting yourself up for failure before you even begin.
Right.
But what if you shifted your perspective? What if, instead of seeing English as this massive hurdle, you viewed it as the key to unlocking your dream of studying abroad?
Ooh.
How would that change your approach?
It's like suddenly you're not just learning grammar and vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
You're opening up a whole world of possibilities.
Exactly.
New friends, new experiences,
Yeah.
a whole new chapter of your life.
And that shift in mindset can make all the difference, right? Instead of focusing on what you can't do, you start focusing on what you can achieve. The energy shifts,
Yeah.
the motivation increases,
For sure.
and suddenly it's not about avoiding mistakes, it's about embracing the learning journey.
I like that. Okay, so we've covered immersion, active vocabulary building, speaking practice, having a positive mindset, and not being afraid of making mistakes. What else from this conversation really jumped out at you?
They make a really crucial point about not getting too bogged down by grammar.
Okay.
Well, grammar is important.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be your sole focus.
Mm-hmm.
They actually compare it to learning to play the piano by only studying music theory.
Just
You could spend years learning all the notes and chords, but until you actually sit down and play,
right.
you'll never truly experience the joy of making music.
It's about actually creating something, right?
Yeah.
Language is the same way. You need to get comfortable with actually using the language,
Uh,
making mistakes, learning from them.
and that's where their tips on finding practice opportunities are so valuable. Even if you don't have native English speakers around you, there are ways to, create those immersive experiences.
Okay, so
They talked about language exchange platforms where you can connect with people from all over the world who are also learning English
oh, cool.
or who want to learn your native language. Think of the cultural exchange and the friendships you could build.
I love that idea. They even suggest talking to yourself.
I know it might sound a little strange,
Oh, I know that might sound a bit strange.
but it's actually a great way to practice in a low-pressure environment.
yeah.
You can experiment with new words and phrases without the fear of being judged, right?
Right.
The safe space to make mistakes and learn from them.
It is. And remember, each time you push past that discomfort,
Yeah.
you're building confidence.
Like training wheels for your English.
I like that. And they also talked about the importance of consistency.
Yes, absolutely.
Even short bursts of practice, like watching a show for 20 minutes a day,
That's all it takes?
can have a huge impact over time.
Absolutely. It's about making English a regular part of your routine,
Okay.
like brushing your teeth or having your morning coffee. Make time for a little bit of English every day, even if it's just for 15 minutes.
Just a little bit.
And the more you do that, the more you'll start to see those small wins.
Like what?
Understanding a phrase you didn't before, using a new word in conversation, feeling a little less nervous when speaking.
Yeah.
And those small victories are what keep you motivated and moving forward. So instead of getting overwhelmed by the big goal of speaking English fluently,
Right.
celebrate those little wins along the way.
It's about building momentum.
Exactly. It's like climbing a mountain. You don't just teleport to the top.
Yeah.
You take it one step at a time, enjoying the view along the way.
I love that analogy. And speaking of enjoying the journey, they also touch on the importance of finding resources and activities that you actually find enjoyable.
Yeah, it's like, find that perfect workout routine.
Oh, yeah.
If you hate running, you're probably not going to stick with it, right?
Right, right. But if you find something you love, like dancing or swimming, it doesn't even feel like a chore, It's something you look forward to.
Exactly. And
Right.
that enthusiasm makes all the difference.
It does.
So if you're struggling to stay motivated, maybe it's time to reassess your approach.
Okay.
Are you forcing yourself to study from textbooks when you'd rather be, like, watching movies?
Yeah.
Are you drilling yourself with flashcards when you'd rather be chatting with a language partner? There are so many ways to learn English.
Right.
So find what works best for you
Yeah.
and run with it.
I love that. Make it fun. It's
Yeah.
about making the learning process enjoyable, not a dreadful chore.
Exactly.
And ultimately, it sounds like these friends are saying that fluency isn't a magical destination.
Right.
It's a journey,
It's a
a
process.
process.
Yeah.
And this conversation gave us a roadmap highlighting the importance of immersion, active learning, consistent practice,
Mm.
and most importantly, enjoying the ride.
Yeah, they really drive home the point that we shouldn't let those common mistakes hold us back,
Yep.
right?
Yeah,
Remember, everyone stumbles along the way. It's part of
yeah,
the process,
it is. It is.
for sure.
So to wrap things up, what's that one big takeaway you want to leave our listener with today?
Okay, here's a final thought to ponder. The conversation touched on the power of mindset.
Okay.
What if, instead of viewing English as, like, this daunting obstacle, you saw it as the key to unlocking a world of amazing experiences,
Mm.
including your dream of studying abroad?
Ooh.
How would that shift in perspective change your approach?
Wow, I love that. It's not just about learning a language. It's
Right.
about expanding your horizons,
Yeah.
connecting with new people and cultures, and making those dreams a reality.
Exactly. Embrace the challenge, celebrate those small wins.
Yeah.
And remember, fluency isn't about perfection.
Mm-hmm.
It's about progress.
That's it for our deep dive today. I hope this conversation has given you some actionable insights and a renewed sense of motivation to pursue that dream of speaking English fluently. Until next time, keep learning, keep practicing, and keep those dreams alive.